Y'all, what's up, man? What's going on? Today is May the 27th, 2025. Let me get this TV out of the room, out of the picture here. Let me slide over. Because if I leave that TV in there, they'll strike the video. Welcome to the channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share this video with somebody that you think may be interested. Follow me on the Podcast with Soul on Spotify. Follow me on the Podcast with Soul on Instagram. Today we're going to talk about the indictment. This is a 14-page document. The United States District Court of the Southern District of New York versus Sean Combs, aka Puff Daddy, aka P. Diddy, aka Diddy, aka PD, aka Love. This initial indictment was a 3-count indictment. From what I understand now, it's been increased to a 5-count indictment. Count number 1 is racketeering conspiracy. Count number 2 is SEX trafficking, and count number 2 is SEX trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and count number 3 is transportation to engage in the sale of SEX. Now, what you have been hearing a lot on the news and in social media is that the government is getting ready to seize Puffy's assets. Like it's imminent, any day now. They're gonna go in and freeze all of his assets, take his money. He's gonna run out of money. He's not gonna be able to pay his legal fees. He's gonna be broke. That is all not true. In this indictment, on page 12, first let's go through the indictment, right? And what has to be proven. Now, I've been in the courtroom in the Southern District of New York every day since Cassie Ventura started her testimony. I didn't go today. Today was the day that Capricorn Clark got on the stand. I didn't hear her testimony, but I got some transcripts that I'm gonna read, and I'm gonna be giving you a video on Capricorn Clark. But I've already been in the courtroom and heard the testimony of 2 other employees, former employees of Puff, that turned prosecution witnesses. So I know that Capricorn Clark's testimony was along the same line, right? Because they're trying to prove a racketeering conspiracy. But what I hate that I missed was the cross-examination by the defense, because I know they ate her up. But I'm going to read it and I'm going to do a video on it. So what the feds are alleging, and it's a stretch, is that Puffy was engaged in a criminal enterprise. And what they have done, they have taken Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Enterprises, Combs Global, his record label, the recording studio, the apparel line, the alcohol business, the marketing agency, the television company, and the media company, and they have lumped those together and named them the Combs Enterprise. And they're saying that the Combs Enterprise engaged in abuse, the trafficking and the sale and racketeering, and that Puffy himself, along with Capricorn Clark, George Kaplan, David James, all of the employees that are now turned government witnesses to testify against Puff, are being included in the execution of the racketeering conspiracy. But what these witnesses, the reason they're testifying against Puff is because the government most likely threatened them and says, you're going to be charged, you're going to go to prison, you're going to lose everything unless you testify against Puff. So all of them are doing that, right? Now, what they're saying is that from at least in or about 2008, Puffy and others known and unknown were members and associates of a criminal organization, Combs Enterprise, or the Enterprise. They are saying that Puffy's legitimate businesses, the ones I just enumerated, Bad Boy Entertainment, the marketing company, the alcohol company, Revolt TV, the media company, the marketing agency, the clothing line, was a criminal organization. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other things, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for the purposes of the sale of a person, coercion, and enticement to engage in the sale of a person, narcotics offenses, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The Combs Enterprise, including its leadership, its members, and its associates, constituted an enterprise. This is page 3 of the 14-page indictment. Now, what we know so far is that a lot of this has been disproven already, right? If you, and they go on to say, and let's get into it, right? So they talk about the abuse. The abuse was at times verbal, emotional, physical, and between a woman and a man. As a pattern of abuse, Puffy manipulated women to participate in highly orchestrated activity with male commercial workers. At times and others, acting at his direction, made arrangements for women and commercial workers to fly to Combs' location. Combs ensured the participation from the women, among other things, obtaining and distributing narcotics to them, controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support, threatening to cut off same, and using intimidation and violence. So this right here, this paragraph was related to Cassie, right? This is, excuse me, this was related to Cassie. Now, Cassie got on the stand and shot all of this in the head. She negated all of this, right? And I got to do a video on her text messages between her and Puff. Hold on a second. Cassie already killed all of this, right? Because Cassie already testified on the stand that she initiated a lot of the freak-offs. She was a willing participant in a lot of the freak-offs, right? That she herself had a drug problem, right? Controlling their careers, leveraging his financial support and threatening, using this has all been explained away and testified away by Cassie. So I don't see this part sticking, right? Then they talk about Combs assaulted women by, among other things, striking, punching, dragging, and throwing objects and kicking them. That's assault. That's not a Rico. The Combs Enterprise constituted an ongoing organization whose members function as a continuing unit for a common purpose of achieving the objectives of the Combs Enterprise. The Combs Enterprise was engaged in, and its activities affected interstate and foreign commerce. The Combs Enterprise operated in the Southern District of New York. So let's talk about the arson piece, right? Kid Cudi already testified on the stand that somebody threw a Molotov cocktail in his Porsche, right? But when the police and the fire department came out and did a DNA wipe. The DNA on the bottle of the Molotov cocktail came back to a female. There were no pictures on Kid Cudi's security of Puff at his house. There was no fingerprints of Puff at his house. There were no fingerprints on his Porsche. There was no witnesses putting Puff at his house. I know Capricorn Clark said today, and she said, who testified to that? Kid Cudi testified that Capricorn Clark called him from outside Puffy's house and said, Puffy is in your house. But there's no evidence. There's absolutely zero evidence of Puff being at Kid Cudi's house. Therefore, the arson charge that's involved in this conspiracy is out the window. Capricorn Clark claimed today that Puffy kidnapped her, or whatever the case may be. I can't wait to read what the cross-examination was, because I know they ate her up on that. Members and associates of the Combs Enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs, booking hotel rooms for freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with required freak-off supplies, arranging for travel victims. This is crazy, man. So here is on page 8, paragraph F. Page 8, paragraph F. When employees, witnesses to his abuse, or others threaten Puffy's authority or reputation, Puffy and members and his associates of the enterprise engaged in acts of violence, threats of financial and reputational harm, and verbal abuse. These acts of violence included kidnapping and arson. So, what has to happen in order for the government to be able to seize Puffy's assets is he has to be found guilty of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, or the sale of a person. This trial, according to the judge, said this is going to be at least until July the 4th. So the government can't seize anything. They can't take anything until he is proven guilty or he pleads guilty. Right now, Puffy is innocent until proven guilty. So they can't do anything. But that's what they are attempting to do, because here is the, and these are the charges. This is crazy. Multiple acts from at least 2008 through the filing of this document, 2024. The Combs Enterprise, or the criminal organization as they call it, knowingly combined, conspired, confederated, and agreed together and with each other to violate the racketeering laws of the United States, to wit, Title 18, United States Code 1962, subsection C. That is, to conduct or participate directly or indirectly in the conduct of the affairs of the Combs Enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Multiple acts of kidnapping, multiple acts of arson, which we know the arson is out, multiple acts of bribery, multiple acts of tampering with a witness, victim, or an informant, forced labor, sex trafficking, relating to transportation inducement to travel for the purpose of distribution of narcotics. Puffy was an addict. Distribution of narcotics. Puffy was a drug addict. He bought drugs to use himself. He was not a distributor. He didn't sell drugs, okay? So far, according to the testimony, not one person has got on the stand and said that Puffy was a drug dealer. Number two, forced labor. what the government is trying to make the case on the forced labor is that he worked his people very hard. If you was on his security staff, you were on the clock 20 hours a day. If you were one of his assistants, he had like 4 or 5 assistants, you were around him, from 20 to 24 hours a day, right? And they're getting on the stand. I saw Capricorn Clark get on the stand and say, oh, I was tired, I was fatigued and this and that. Listen, that is not forced labor. That is just a high work ethic dealing with a very successful person and a very successful organization. Now, this is the key. If Puffy is found guilty, then the government is going to forfeit and seize all of his properties from all of his businesses. And this is why they lumped all of his businesses together. Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs Global, the liquor business, the marketing business, all of his companies, they've lumped them together and called them the Combs Enterprise, because if he is found guilty, if the verdict comes back guilty, they are going, by the order, page 12, paragraph 18 of this indictment, as a result of committing the offense alleged in count 1 of this indictment, the defendant shall forfeit to the United States, pursuant to Title 18, United States Code, Section 1963, any and all interest in defendant acquired or maintained in violation of Title 18, any and all interest in securities of, claims against, and property or contractual rights of any kind affording a source of influence over the enterprise named and described herein, which the defendant established, operated, controlled, conducted, and participated in the conduct. So what they would do if Puffy is found guilty on any of the 5 counts, the government will look to seize all of his property, going back to 2008, right? If there's an attorney in here that's watching this video, please go in the comment section and tell me if I'm right or wrong. I read all my comments, and I'm okay being wrong and being corrected. But they will go back to 2008, and whatever revenue he generated from 2008, whatever equity he has in any business, accounts receivables, maybe even his principal residence, probably his principal residence, because a lot of what they allege in the Rico happened at his houses in LA, in Miami. I don't know if he has something in New York. They would effectively take everything and break Puff. As far as what I know in terms of what he owns. Now, what other kind of monies he has offshore or whatever the case may be, they also address that. Paragraph 21, substitute assets provision, right? If any of the above described forfeitable property as a result of any act or omission of the defendant, A, cannot be located upon the exercise of due diligence, B, has been transferred or sold to or deposited with the third person, C, has been placed beyond the jurisdiction of the court, D, has been substantially diminished in value, E, has been commingled with other property which cannot be subdivided without difficulty, it is the intent of the United States, pursuant to Title 18, to seek forfeiture of any other property of the defendant up to the value of the forfeitable amount. So if he is found guilty, a verdict comes back of guilty, they will do an accounting of his assets, net of his liabilities, and they will place a lien against his assets and just probably take ownership. And most likely Puffy will go to jail for no less than 240 months or 20 years, which at the age of 56 is a rough hustle. He may even get 30 years. Um, from what I understand, they offered him a plea of 186 months or 188 months, which would be 15 years, 6 months, or 15 years, 8 months. He turned it down. I'm hearing on social media, which I don't take much stock in, that a plea of 5 years is being tossed around between Puffy's legal team and the Southern District of New York. But Puff is in a tough situation. He stands to lose everything if found guilty, and all that he built going back to 2008 would be lost. And that's the way the game is played, and that's what he's up against. So I just wanted to get that part down. But this does not happen until he is found guilty. So he still has plenty of money to pay his lawyers. They say his net worth right now is somewhere around $400 million. That's plenty of money to pay his legal team and investigators, whatever he's got working. He's got plenty of money to defend himself. And I guess he's made the decision that, fuck it, I'm going to go all out. If I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose everything, but I'm going to go down fighting. So that's what it is. See y'all later. Peace.